We want you guys in the government to issue the bonds, i.e. tax-free bonds, and we will pay the revenues that you're required to service the bonds. So why did they do this? Because government can issue bonds at lower interest rates than normal. So that was typically utilized to start a new business. And I saw an example of that in Tallahassee not too long ago. The Brown Holiday Inn conversion into student housing. All of that proposal was dependent on lower cost financing through the issuance of government bonds, and it did not happen. Bootstrapping is one of my favorite subject areas. Bootstrapping is anything that you do in your business that doesn't involve borrowing money or selling a piece of your business, selling equity. Now, first off, most businesses are started with that first bullet point, personal savings. That is the key, number one way that you start a business and finance it with your own money. However, first business my wife and I started, which was an interior decorating firm that we owned in the Washington, D.C. area, was 100% dependent on customer financing. We owned that business 15 years and we never borrowed a cent because the customers were required to prepay us for every transaction. Now that was easy to do in the custom decorating business because we couldn't sell those window treatments to anybody else. But you typically see it here in Tallahassee, but you may not recognize it. To give you an example, after this meeting today, you go to Best Buys and you buy a new electronic gadget. What are they going to do with the cash register? They're going to ask you if you want an extended warranty. Now you may never need to fix that thing, but they're going to get their money today. That is a form of customer financing. And when you get customer financing, the typical interest rate attached to it is zero. Zero. And I don't have to fill out any paperwork at the bank either. That's kind of a nice benefit. In addition, one of the things we see here a lot in Tallahassee is the air conditioning companies. The time of the year, like right now, your air conditioning units aren't breaking down that often, so business is a little slow. So we sell you a warranty service on your machine. We'll come out twice a year and service your machine. And Benson sent me one the other day, and I love this one because it had different levels of service. There was the bronze level, the silver level, the gold level. The gold level is about $1,000. So you can generate a lot of money in customer financing, particularly over the slow periods. You just go out to your customers and pre-sell services to them. Okay? Trade credit. For those of you in business, and particularly those of you regularly using suppliers, believe me, you do not want to have to pay at the point of purchase. You want to be billed, and you want to have a minimum of 30 days to pay. Now, y'all remember the Schlotsky's Deli that used to exist out on Appalachian Parkway? Well, the reason it isn't there anymore is because it was a franchise, and Schlotsky's in Dallas declared bankruptcy. This concerned the food supplier to Schlotsky's here, which was a privately owned business, by the way. So the food supplier pulled the trade credit and said to the company, when our driver shows up at your back door, you better have a check ready or we don't unload the truck. The business was already having cash flow problems, and that put them right over the edge. They went out of business. So failure to utilize trade credit is a serious cash flow issue. And I will tell you, in the last 2 years, most of the calls that I've gotten from established businesses have been cash flow problems. I've actually gotten a call from a 50-year-old corporation in the Tallahassee area that told me for the first time in 50 years, they were not able to pay their bills. So cash flow is a serious issue. I do teach a separate workshop on that. Last one, reinvestment of profits. As business owners, one of the things that terrifies us is actually paying ourselves. Isn't that amazing? We work really hard, and we're scared to take money out of our business because we might need it in the business. So we tend to be conservative on reinvestment of profits. We keep it in there. I have a new client who opened 3 months ago, and she's doing very well. I talked to her last week, and she said, things seem to be going well. She said, but I'm not sure. And I said, why not? She said, well, I'm afraid to take any money out of the business. I said, I can help you with that. She said this and that, and she said, I'm not sure what indicators I should be using as to whether I'm doing well or not doing well. And she's doing very well, but she doesn't realize that. So we talked about developing some indicators for her, and I'm a big proponent, after all, I'm an accountant, I'm a big proponent of forecasting my cash flow. I like to know whether I can pay my bills before they're actually due. So we do a lot of that work with people, and that's what we're doing with her, and I've assured her that she will be able to sleep nights without worrying about whether she can take some money out of her business. We'll figure that out. Now, equity funding. Equity funding is simply selling a piece of your business to somebody else. Frequently a good idea, by the way, because people get sick. And when people get sick, the business suffers. So unless you got somebody who can sort of take over when you're sick, you're going to run into these things. Business owners tell me, I got the flu really bad, and I'm going to work. I'm going to infect all my customers because there's nothing else I can do. If you are interested in equity funding, and sometimes that's the only way to start a new business, by the way, because people are not so-called bankable, they can't borrow money. Here are the people to look at, friends and family. Now, are your friends and family going to invest in your business because they think you are a super business person? Nope. It's because they love you. And they just hope you aren't going to lose their retirement funds. That used to be called the 3S, friends, families, and fools. Owner-operators is a special type of equity funding. That's basically the guys who own the vehicles. For example, if you're not aware of this, most of the FedEx ground guys that you see running around Tallahassee do not work for FedEx. They own those trucks, and they are owner-operators to FedEx. Angel investors. An angel investor is a person, typically a retired business person, who's made some money. They're willing to invest in you or maybe loan you some money, but they don't want to be that actively involved in your business. They don't want to be involved in the day-to-day. They might sit on your board, but other than that, they're willing to help you out. But the problem is these people exist in Tallahassee, but they don't wear signs. They don't raise their hand and say, I have to be one of those folks. So you have to find them. If any of you looked on Craigslist regularly, you find a whole bunch of these trying to raise money, trying to do this. One of my favorites was a guy, not in Tallahassee, by the way, who pre-sold bar tabs in order to raise enough money to open his bar. So he basically came out and he said, look, give me $1,000. I'm going to use it to open this new bar, and then you can drink up $1,000. Well, the problem was he got his bar open. He went to the bar for the first night, and everybody, all his investors were there. So all I could envision, you know, the day after Christmas, cash registers run backwards. That's what he's thinking. Right? He gets in the bar, and a funny thing happens. Well, because of this buzz surrounding his new bar and all of his investors and prepaid bar tabs showing up, everybody else in town is showing up too to see what the commotion's about. So he gets off to a really great start because he's created this buzz in the community. Everybody wants to come and see what it's about. Now, I did notice a guy recently in Tallahassee who was doing the same thing. He was doing with his restaurant a $1,000 food tab. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. He's not in business today. But that brings us to venture capitalists. Venture capitalists are professional investors. They raise money from other people, and they invest it into businesses, and they expect huge returns. Huge returns. We're not talking bowling alleys and restaurants here. We're talking like earth-changing technologies. When you invest with a venture capitalist, you have to expect an extremely motivated and involved investor. One who's going to get quite involved in your business and tell you how to run it. As a matter of fact, there are a number of cases where they actually kick the owners out. And you have to anticipate a payday at the end of 3 years. So you have to have an exit strategy that says, here's how you get paid. An IPO, an initial public offering, you buy me out or whatever. We don't have many of these in the Tallahassee area. We have one venture capital fund that was set up here several years ago. They've made very, very few investments. So, and with the downturn in the economy and the downturn in the stock market, those people who were putting money into these funds felt less wealthy, and they stopped putting money into them. So we haven't seen much of these in the recent years. So that kind of brings me down to borrowing. Well, the news here is there's easy ways to get money and hard ways to get money. Most of my clients try the hard way first. I prefer to do it the other way. Number one, if you have life insurance, cash value life insurance, you have a guaranteed loan. Guaranteed. I've had two people come in the last year that had $30,000 worth of this stuff and didn't know it. And that was enough to start their businesses. And here's the beautiful thing about it. You don't have to pay it back. No monthly payments at all. Now, don't worry about the insurance company. When you die, they get it back. They're okay. They square up. But if you happen to have this, it's a guaranteed loan. No business plan, no extensive paperwork. Send a form to the insurance company. Check comes back. That easy. Home equity. A lot of home equity loans have been made in order to start businesses. Either a home equity loan or a line of credit. 6 months ago, if you walked into a Tallahassee bank and you asked this question, I'm here to talk to you about a small business loan. The first response you'd get back, assuming they were even interested in talking, was, do you own any real estate? Owner-occupied real estate. I actually had one of the national banks call me, a loan officer called me and said, do you know anybody loaning to startup businesses? Most national banks won't loan to a startup business. We got to be more than 24 months old for them to consider it. And I said, well, obviously you aren't. So what are you lending? She said, well, our requirement right now is you got to be over 24 months old. You got to be a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer, steady revenue stream, and you got to have $75,000 on deposit in your bank. I said, whoa. Business must be slow. She said, the phone is not ringing. That was their requirement at that time because they were so concerned about capital in the bank. It was much easier to say no than to say yes. Now that's improved, but it hasn't gotten back to normal yet. So home equity loan is still a serious way to finance a business. And I will tell you this, you do put your house on the line, and that's a concern. But for most of my business owners, instead of getting the home equity loan at 6%, they borrow the money at 9% as a small business loan, and then the bank returns to them and says, by the way, you've got to pledge your home as collateral. You just added 3% to your home equity. But that's not a smart thing in business. Your break-even point has just gone up. Unsecured credit is credit cards. Many businesses founded on credit card. I did have a gentleman ran his business for 2 years on credit cards. Never paid a cent of interest. He just kept rolling it over to the next offer. Something real good about tracking that money. Google started using credit cards. Factoring receivables has been around for 400 years. It's fairly popular in Tallahassee because of state agencies. This is how it works. You've got that wonderful contract with state agency, right? And you supplied a lot of things to that state agency, and they haven't paid you yet. And payroll is due on Friday. So you're in a cash flow jam. Well, one of the things you can do is take that receivable to a bank, and they'll give you some money today for it. Now, there's a fee for that. And when the receivable is paid, they'll settle up with you, and you'll get some money, and the bank will get some money. Capital City Bank, for example, does it here. They call it receivables financing. I have some clients who use it once in a lifetime, and other clients use it every single transaction. Merchant advance is a newer form of factoring. Anybody ever heard of it? Has anybody done it? Merchant advance is selling sales you haven't made yet. Typical scenario, you accept credit cards in your business. Your credit card processor comes to you and analyzes your sales the last 6 months or so and says, I'll give you $15,000 and you're going to repay me with 2% of your credit card sales, future sales, until the loan is repaid. So I'm selling future sales here. The problem with this is that the ones that I've looked at, and I began seeing this about 3